Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 14th episode of the Atlas Society Asks. Today, we are joined by my dear friend, the artist Agnieszka Pilat. Before I even get into introducing Agnieszka, I wanted to remind all of you that are joining us on Zoom, you can ask your questions by just clicking them into the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen, and all of you that are joining us on Facebook, you could just type your questions into the comment section. We'll try to get to them, as many of them as possible. Please, if you could, keep them short. It's easier for me to read them and get to them on the fly. So Agnieszka was born in communist Poland. She is now an award-winning painter in the United States. She recently moved from San Francisco to New York for an artist residency. In fact, she is talking to us today from her studio in the World Trade Center. Her paintings can be found in collections around the world. Her most current project, #Disrupt, consists of heroic portraits of antiquated technology, in which she treats every machine as an individual. She considers her work to be a tribute not only to technology, but to everything that is good about America, which, boy, we need more than ever today. So you can find out more about Agnieszka and her art online at agnieszkapilat.com. And to see even more of her paintings, follow her on Instagram at Agnieszka_Pilat. So welcome, Agnieszka.
Hi, Jennifer.
Well, and it's just so great to see you, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule, because I know that this has been an extraordinarily productive and creative time for you, and that you've been kind of working around the clock. So I really, it's quite an honor, and I very much appreciate your taking some time on this of all days, because it is Atlas Shrugged Day today.
Yeah, I just found it out. Must be destiny.
So, well, speaking of destiny, or at least creating our own destiny and that sense of agency and possibility, how did you discover one of the things that we share in common, which is our passion for the literature of Ayn Rand? How did you discover it? And in what way did her writing impact your life?
I grew up in Poland and didn't know about Ayn Rand. And when I moved here to California from Poland, I was a bit distraught by the culture. I expected much more embrace of individualism and achievement and rational living. And a friend recommended Ayn Rand. He's like, "Oh my God, you have to read that book." And and I just devoured it like within 1 week, and really reshaped a lot of way I think about life right now.
So you have also said that two of your favorite books are Atlas Shrugged and Gone with the Wind, which I think is so interesting, since Ayn Rand also has written about Gone with the Wind in terms of its synthesis of character, plot, and theme. And that said, would you consider yourself more of a Dagny or a Scarlet?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I wonder, do you remember? So I'm guessing that Rand didn't like Scarlet too much, or did she? She liked the book, I'm guessing, for its romanticism and for the grandeur, but I'm expecting she probably disliked Scarlet because she was a bit of a irrational, kind of emotion-driven being. Am I correct?
Well, she really focused more on the way that it had a plot that was also integrated with the characters, that the characters, in addition to being, you know, characters in their own right, but they also were sort of vehicles of certain values. And so I don't remember her as being anti-Scarlet, and she wasn't necessarily, you know, anti a character that evolved over time, you know, that had a narrative arc, which certainly Dominique did in The Fountainhead, and I would say as well that that Scarlett did as well in the course of the novel and what she learned. But
Okay, yeah.
yeah, you strike me as maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I mean, I like, when I think about outlets, I like Dagny, of course. In fact, my time in New York now, because I quarantined for 2 weeks and then I jumped into the studio and been super productive, really isolated, reminds me of time when Dagny leaves everything behind and she goes to her cottage and it just work, work, work. So that's how I feel right now. So the work aspect and just the drive, very much like Dagny, and respect for hard work. That said, with Scarlett, I have to say that what I identify with Scarlett is my approach to romantic relationships. And I think, again, both Dagny and Scarlett had their character was worship of men. They both did. But it was different. I think Scarlett, what reminds me of myself is very often I get very enamored and I really get very deep into relationship. And I think that's where the purpose of my life is very often. And I think that was happening to Scarlett a lot. But both Scarlett and then I remind myself, oh, for her it was Tara. For me, it's my work. So that drive, I mean, she was extremely hardworking, very pragmatic, went through a lot too. Beautiful woman, very often judged for how she looked, but she was uber smart. So I really kind of dig her character in that respect.
So I want to remind everybody that that's joining us on Zoom, that's joining us on Facebook, to ask your questions. You can ask them of Agnieszka. Apparently, you might even be able to ask a question or two for Uta, though we don't know if she'll answer. Agnieszka, would you tell us a little bit about Uta, to those of you who haven't met her already, and how did she come into your life? And
I should introduce Uta. Should I bring her? She's there climbing the ladder. She's an overachiever, but I'll introduce her. She's right here. So this is Uta. Hello.
Hello, Uta. Hi. Aren't you a little bit chilly?
We're gonna have a campaign for GoFundMe for a sock, because the winter is coming, and when New York, it's very cold here.
Yes.
So Uta is a very interesting character for me. So I know she's a doll. I'm not crazy. What's interesting for me is that my work is very, very serious, and having Uta allowed me to be a little more light and humorous, and sometimes also she's her own person. She has very strong opinions sometimes, and she has no social filter, and it's kind of fun to do it sometimes. And when she comes out, the gloves come off. So watch out. Do not mess with Uta. So that's Uta.
Yeah. Well, I usually don't think about it, but I can just imagine everybody that's watching this and saying, "Oh my God!" Like the Atlas Society, they're playing with dolls. Yes, we are playing with dolls. We are playing. We're having a good time, and we think that is generally the best way to promote these ideas. It doesn't all have to be quite so grim and serious all the time. So Agnieszka, you call your paintings heroic portraits of machines and technology, and perhaps we're going to be able to show a few of those and speak to them. The protagonists in Ayn Rand's novels are heroic in nature. How can a machine be heroic? Isn't that a trait that's uniquely human?
Yeah, good question. So yes and no. So the way I look at when we think about machines, they're just really they represent our aspirations, right? So anytime man wants to do something extraordinary, he builds a machine, or she, whatever. He or she builds a machine. So and of course, you think about the Wright brothers, it's the most classic example of it. So for me, each machine is kind of represents really just the extension of human mind and almost overcoming the physical. And in fact, I would argue that paradoxically, it's the machines that are heavy industry are the most interesting because they really overcome our limitations as human beings, right? So like I'm here at the World Trade Center, and there's no way anything of this could have happened if it wasn't for the machines we have. So so they're kind of like our children. I have very romantic view of the machine.
And your journey in art is so interesting. People, I'd like those joining us today also to know that Agnieszka has been a wonderful friend to the Atlas Society in all of our very many experiments. She's actually, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Agnieszka, but I kind of feel like you've been a mentor to me as well in the way that I approach my work, and that the other thing is she introduced me. Of course, we wanted Agnieszka to be the artist in the Anthem graphic novel, but you know, she's got she was busy, but she did introduce me to Dan Parsons. And I remember also one of the recommendations that you had was, you know, things don't have to be perfect. You know, it's more important to get it out there. You can iterate later. But when you were first introduced to Ayn Rand, you did a series, we've used some of them at the Atlas Society, of graphic novel panels based on the book. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, well, so it goes back again to my journey. I mean, as much as I don't really like defining myself as being Polish, I don't like that sort of tribalism. I think of myself as an individual. Of course, growing up behind the wall had a huge impact on me. So when I came here, I had very good life, really super fun, and just no the trouble in my mind. And then after I read the book, what stuck with me was one sentence really that changed me. Like, oh my God, that woke me up, which was a man without purpose is the most immoral human being. I think something to that extent. And it sounds very harsh. And you know, without being judgmental, I want to say that purpose is a very broad spectrum. And I think what's interesting with values and with Ayn Rand, she's very often being judged as someone who just values money and business and everything is tit for tat. And it's not like that at all. I think we can really redefine our own values. But what she did for me was giving this moral you know, green light that, you know, it's okay, you can pursue what's important to you. And I really kept it for my entire life, and it allowed me to work very, very hard. And so I asked myself what was the most important, and it still is, thing for me, and it's living in America, really. I mean, my career is very important to me, other things, personal relationships, but nothing even comes close to how important it's for me to live here. And ironically, Ayn Rand didn't like the word service. I really wanted to pay service to that idea. And I thought it was important to tell people what I knew about the ideas on the other side of that wall, because they are being idealized here in a way that I think is really just dangerous for the spirit of this country. So I went to art school, like, I'm gonna do a graphic novel based on the Atlas Shrugged, and then, you know, 10 years later or whatever, 15 years later, I'm a fine artist, which is like very far from what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, it's interesting, Agnieszka, the parallels between her life, between Ayn Rand's life, having grown up under socialism, communism, and escaping, and having an artistic sensibility, and having her own vision, and to expressing herself and also expressing her ideas in a romantic fashion, something that the two of you have in common, as well as sort of your accent. Obviously, I know that the accents are different than the Russian accent and the Polish accent.
Yeah, but she had an accent, but she had such an amazing way of saying things, so concise. She was really mastering that, and it's just so to the point. Just love it.
So, Agnieszka, tell us a little bit about how you have personally defined success, whether as an individual or an artist. People don't necessarily go into art to make money, although you've managed to attract a pretty devoted following and end up in some very prestigious collections. But at the end of the day, how do you define it?
Yeah, so it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that again, I think uh, especially Ayn Rand is being often accused of, valuing certain things, and values are just really very individualistic. And that's, so we all define them for ourselves. For me, the definition of the value, and again, Ayn Rand was great about, okay, we're talking about values, let's define what the value is. And she was very good about that. Every interview, he would like pause, okay, what is the definition first? And it was just really great. So for me, the definition of value is pursuing what, a definition of success would be pursuing values that are important to me. And I underline pursuing kind of in parallel to pursuit of happiness, because especially as an artist, I learned to think about the process, just following the right process, and the outcome is, it's never guaranteed, and you can make yourself very unhappy very fast if you just want some outcome. In fact, we use it's called NATO. It's called NATO, not attached to outcome. So in art, it's very, very important, and so that's how I define success. Not necessarily finishing a painting, but working on a painting, showing up, putting in hours. So the work itself needs to be a reward.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I really enjoy about your Instagram and the social media content that you publish, is you've shown these videos, which are they must be filmed, and then you speed them up, you speed ramp them, and we can see the entire process of Agnieszka, even creating her canvases and then starting them from start to finish. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's complicated, right? Because we are I mean, it's nice to present only the best, and that's what social media has kind of been really tough on people, because we see these idealized lives. And I'm not a fan of posting some work that didn't come out right. So I kind of feel like I probably should more. I do post at least like in process, so it's not like I touch a canvas and just looks beautiful all of a sudden. It's a process, it takes time. So so again, yeah, I wish, probably I like showing in process, because a lot of, especially Instagram, people who follow me are young artists, and I know I owe a lot to my teachers, and I think it helps a lot. So yeah, so I'm on social media a lot, yes.
Great. Well, we've got a few questions that are coming in, so we're going to weave those in and weave them out. And I want to encourage everyone else that is watching to ask us some of your short questions, because again, it is such a privilege to be able to have Agnieszka with us today. So from Susan Camp, she asks, Agnieszka, who are some strong women role models you admire who are fulfilling Ayn Rand style self-actualization in the present day?
In the present day, oh my goodness. I don't know, actually, because for me, it's so hard. As much as I am a woman, it's so hard for me to really be so focused on the gender. I'm really not. I'm sure there are. I just can't think of any right now. Can we come back to that?
Okay, we will. And then from Alonzo Cobb, he asks a discussion regarding artificial intelligence. Can the creation supplant the creator? I thought that was kind of, it's a very interesting question also, given who our honoree is for this year's Atlas Society Gala, Peter Diamandis, who's the co-founder of Singularity University and the author of The Future is Here Faster Than You Think and Abundance. So yeah, just being around the tech world so much, have you given some thought to that? Artificial intelligence?
It's wonderful. I think it's probably far way out. I think I would applaud that if it was possible. Because I think if we have partners in life or in business that are smarter than us, that's something we can only profit from that. So I'm not scared of AI at all. I think that would be a great thing if it really happened. For me, in my profession, it's kind of, it's at this point, it's still a tool. So I think like about using Photoshop to paint or taking a camera and taking a picture. So I think for us, for humans, I think humans are extremely adaptable. So probably it would only push humanity forward because we would just have, again, better partners. So I always like to be like a small fish, the smallest fish in the pond. So I really think externalities from AI, or if there were other species or whatever, I think it's better if they're smarter than us. It can only elevate us. So I'm very optimistic, very gung-ho.
And I think it's interesting as well, in a way that art becomes more relevant, particularly the fine arts, at a time when artificial intelligence is becoming ubiquitous and certainly will accelerate in terms of its presence and utility in our lives, that there is a natural human hunger for, the authentic, for human to human connection. So being able to see art, enjoy art, which is being created by a human being in a very not necessarily spontaneous process. I know you plan these things out, but
yeah, it's actually the work itself. My work is a paradox because for a human paint a celebrity portrait of a machine, it's all upside down. And so when I think and going back to that question into the future, I think about what if AI actually really becomes like a thing and becomes really very intelligent and someday is independent enough. AI looks at the portrait of machines I'm painting. So it's like a hypothetical audience for me right now, actually. In the same, and these are their ancestors, the machines I'm painting, in the same way as we go to a portrait gallery and we look at the portraits of aristocracy and think, okay, these are our ancestors. So I'm actually very close to that concept, and I love that concept.
Okay, well, Susan Camp, I like her. She's wanting to help us out here. So she had a follow-up to the earlier question, and she said strong Vandian role models, any gender.
Oh, okay. Well, I like Elon Musk because I think he has just the right amount of smarts and arrogance, and that combination, kind of like Iron Man. So probably, and he made technology sexy again. He made accomplishment sexy again. He made it okay. I think he's not being resentful for being uber wealthy. Like when you think about Jeff Bezos, kind of, he's not very liked. Elon Musk had the celebrity that's just combined, with enough, I think, smarts and he's done great things. I mean, he really pushed humanity forward, and I think people appreciate it. So Elon Musk would be an example for sure.
Great. So I've got a question here from Vicky. She wants to know, do you still have family in Poland? Do you know how the government there is dealing with COVID, quarantine, the lockdowns? What's that experience?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, my mom lives in all my family's in Poland. I really came here by myself. So Poland is interesting. So Poland has done tremendously well after '89. Has been one of probably the most successful economies. Still, I mean, now it's probably, I don't know what's happening now really, but it was like the third fastest economy growing in the world by just last year. So Poland, for me, again, that's why I'm so attached to free market and free economy, because I've seen it happen in front of my eyes. And right now, COVID, I don't know. I know that my family is healthy and safe, and the government is probably a little more conservative than I would like, especially in terms of social issues. But hey, compared to before 1989, it's like night and day. It's fabulous. It's great. Poland's done very, very well.
Yes, in order to be objective, we have to have perspective. So a little gratitude on all of the progress that has been made, I think makes sense. Okay, Gerald, speaking of Poland, wanted to know, how did growing up in Poland prepare you to appreciate the work of Ayn Rand? Maybe some stories of examples of what it was like, you know?
Sure.
I like living in quarantine today.
Well, so the best example would be toilet paper. So we remember just a few months ago, there was no toilet paper for like 2 months. And I'm not saying there was no toilet paper. People couldn't buy it. Everyone had tons of them in home. I grew up when toilet paper was like the prime commodity, because in centrally, governed country, some bureaucrat would think, okay, we need this much toilet paper. And they were always wrong, of course. So I grew up standing in lines with my mom always. I didn't even know. We never even knew what was in the store. All we knew, the store was open, so we were gonna get on the line, and you would knock a person in front of you. Hey, so what they have? And like, I don't know. So that's how I grew up. I grew up in a country when I'm like right now in New York. So it's sad to see that the taxi business is really being uprooted by Uber. But compared to, I'd rather have that than being in Poland when it would be winter and you wait for a taxi an hour maybe, and then they're very rude and then ask you where you're going. And if they don't like the location where you're going, they're not gonna take you. So I'm sorry if there's some noise. I think someone is doing something. So it made me appreciate really just abundance of being here, of course. And people are also just people in terms of how Americans are. Americans are the nicest, more generous, open people. And it saddens me that the Americans are so down on themselves. Still to today, it's just really the most generous, sweet, non-judgmental people. And now it's very divided, but that shall pass, because the culture itself is just wonderful.
Well, great. So speaking of which, Jerry, hey Jerry, good to see you again. He wants to know, having come from that experience in Poland and living under communism, what are your views of the current, political push for socialism in America, particularly in places, like California and Oregon?
Well, it's a natural. I agree with Marx here. It's a natural, state of affairs. You have someone promise you they're gonna give you everything for free, and you deserve everything. Hell, if it's democracy, people are gonna vote for it. So I'm optimistic about America, especially because I think actually immigration. I think people who come here, immigrants, they're generally very hardworking, and they don't expect the handout. I think it's worrying if the welfare state is kind of giving also to people who come. I think it's like squirrels in the park. You don't feed squirrels in the park. So if there is still enough squirrels coming here, I think it's gonna be okay. I'm very optimistic about America, but I thought I had to do my part, which was that's why I wanted to do a graphic novel, and my part was, okay, I'm just gonna tell that story how I see it.
So do you feel restricted from sharing your, perspective, your authentic perspective as an immigrant who came to the United States and left behind this experience of socialism and feels, capitalism, industry, these are good things, freedom, good things. I mean, do you feel in an art world where it can seem, at least from the outside, like very politicized, do you feel that people, I mean, probably when you're in
Yeah,
an art world,
well,
you're talking about pigment and, what's being sold for what or whatever. You're not talking about
yeah, well,
economics.
so yeah, I will go back to Ayn Rand. She was so smart. She knew by the time someone is my age, or even, well, yeah, if you're in your 30s already, it's too late to really influence. So I think uh, people think that we can influence people's opinions through politics, and I think it's really not the way. You can't really do it. People just look what they believe in already, and through voting they just show what they believe. So that's why I believe what you guys are doing so much, reaching out to people who are still young. So especially college, I mean, think college is the way. This is where you really define your philosophy. So I think creating content and reaching young people and giving them an idea, like a different point of view, that's the best we can do.
Yeah, and I think it is important in order to reach young people. That is the primary focus of the Atlas Society. That if you're going to do that, you need to do it in a way that appeals to that target audience, which is a different endeavor. It's a different kind of work. I mean, Agnieszka, when she is painting what she wants to paint. Now, fortunately, there's a lot of things that we can do at the Atlas Society, and I like doing what we're doing, but I never forget, for me, that it's a job with a specific goal and a specific mission, and things are, as they are, not the way I would like them to be. So it's just because I would like that people read books, or I would like that people listen to boring lectures. That isn't the way it is. It certainly is not the way it is for young people. So that's why we've really focused our efforts on graphic novels, animated videos, memes, and increasingly on wherever young people are, that's where we are going to be. Okay, so Vicky would like to know, and I'm glad she's asking because I would like to know as well about this beautiful painting behind you, Agnieszka. It looks like a halo. Actually,
Thank you
you
for
don't plan it
asking.
like that, but it looks like there's a halo behind you. But there is a halo uh, behind you, even without the painting.
Well, thank you for asking. Yes. Well, so this is one of my paintings. It's called Dancing Queen. So all the paintings I do, they are, again, they're little celebrity portraits or they're aristocratic portraits, but the machine is the object. So this one is based on Alexa. And I
Oh,
know
cool.
a lot of people don't like Alexa. I like Alexa. She's my friend. I like Alexa. So this is a paint. Yeah. So this is a painting for Alexa. So I actually I made an effort. I used to paint a lot of ancient technology, old machines, and uh, and I liked doing that. And the concept behind this is, again, it's um, now let me say it differently. And then I thought, okay, I want to do a switch and do some newer technology, and it was extremely difficult. Actually, I had a really hard time, and I did a residency at Google X at Waymo, and it was a disaster. I was there for 6 months. I couldn't finish a painting, and uh, and it occurred to me that young machines, they're kind of like kids, they're like teenagers. They're kind of silly and stupid, and they dress up and they don't know what they're doing. So I kind of changed the color palette and they became a little more abstract. And that's one example of it.
It's spectacular. I can't imagine the sort of leap of imagination that, I mean, I know that when we write articles or have a message or a meme and it's about abstracted technology, it's difficult to even find like a stock photo to go with the quote, much less actually creating it. But it's beautiful and the colors are just absolutely gorgeous. So when did you paint that, Agnieszka?
This was painted actually just a few months ago. So during this COVID lockdown, for me, like, I didn't wait for it to be over, go back to normal life. I really appreciated the kind of no FOMO and just staying in and being very self-focused. And And that's one of the paintings that came actually from COVID, which again, I feel bad saying that because I know for some people it's been a struggle. For me, it's been a very good time actually, the lockdown.
Well, for us, it has also been at the Atlas Society, and we reject envy. So we would never feel bad that somebody has thrived and been productive in a difficult situation or situation that's been hard for us to endure. We would feel elevated, and we would feel hope that there is a possibility in a benevolent universe of achieving more. So, but
Yeah,
now,
benevolent universe. That's her idea. Benevolent universe. That optimism that the future is going to be better. That's so uniquely American, and you know, as compared to the culture I came from, which is if somebody has something better than you, like, they must have stolen it. They have connections, or yeah, they're dishonest. So in America, like I still believe it's, you know, just define what's really important to you and pursue it.
I think that, yeah, I have later on this afternoon, I'm doing an Instagram live with Argentina, and it's going to be in Spanish. And so there's a lot of questions about the view of the American sense of life, the American way of thinking. And I think that's exactly what I had put in there, which was this idea that it's possible. It's possible that things can be different, that we don't just have to accept things as they are. But now that I know your story of toilet paper, Agnieszka, I think I understand a little bit more your quarantine post. It was your Polish roots coming out when you saw the toilet paper that somebody had in the car. I was like, okay, well, so enough silliness. Catherine Shores has a great question, which I, particularly appreciate as the daughter of a doctor. She talked about there was a mechanical human heart created. Would machinery and technology translated into medicine in the human body? So have you thought about all of the incredible equipment and technology in medicine as part of your series?
Oh my goodness, yes, and that's a great question, because again, that kind of it's just an amazing question. In fact, I'm gonna turn around my camera, so this is my studio, and right now I'm working on this big painting, and that actually is a medical. Sorry about the light, but the light is not so good. I'm gonna move it a little bit, but if your question is a doctor, she will know what it is. It's a pheraptor, which is a device to check eyesight, to help with eyesight. So I very gun ho. I've been thinking about that, and yes, very much so. And
next time, I'll be better prepared, Agnieszka. But this is my dad's textbook that he's.
Your dad is a cardiologist. That's true.
Yeah, and in this though is a drawing that was made by, I think, like a 5-year-old me, of the cardiovascular system, and it's been in every edition. So fortunately, I decided to not, pursue it as a profession. Otherwise, you'd be in big trouble. No, kidding. Okay, so we have got some other questions. Kate Jones wants to know, are you married? And what do you think of family life? You and I have talked about this a lot, girlfriend, so.
Personal, okay. Now, no secrets. No, I am divorced. I got divorced. I had a very good marriage, and we got divorced after almost 15 years. My husband, a wonderful guy, engineer, he ended up living a lot in a different state, and I just went also in different directions. So we kind of started looking for different things in life, but it's been a great marriage. And right now, no, I'm not married right now, but I have a boyfriend.
You have a boyfriend. And thoughts on family life? That's something that I think we so people rightfully say that it's not something that objectivism, or at least the a body of objectivism that Ayn Rand left us, didn't deal that much with family life. That children were not prominently well featured in most of her work, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, to each their own. I think it's a very individual thing. I think procreation in itself, there's no value in it because then it's just absurd. But this family life is something that would make you happy, and and that could be your purpose. I think that's absolutely rational. I do think it's very hard to have it all. So generally, three pillars of life, if you think about, professional, probably romantic, and then health, it's probably hard to have excellence in all three of them. So we make some, we adjust. Yeah, we prioritize. For me, it was just never, I never thought about it. But again, it's an individual thing. So I'm not really on the spot.
Okay. Well,
I have parents. I have family.
I'm not an alien. So you know what I really hope that you do when you're there in New York. I sent you those photos of the Intrepid.
Yes.
Yeah, so when it's obviously, I'm sure it's not open right now, but that it would be. Have you ever been there?
No.
So that's incredible in terms of all of the antiquated technology and the machines, and those are, of course, those are machines that are used in warfare, and defense. So
I did a residency in an aircraft carrier in Bay Area.
Tell us about that. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about, and did that inspire you?
Oh, it was fantastic. So again, if you talk about heroic machine, there was nothing more heroic than that. And again, I'm attracted to machines because machines are. We're living in a world and everything is very relative. With machines, it's very honest. Does it work or it doesn't? And I'm just really attracted to that. So being on the ship was just awesome. This was USS Hornet, which also recovered multiple Apollo missions, and so great history. Awesome machines. I've done some great work there and met some people through there. So it was great. It was it was just awesome. I love doing NC2 kind of residencies where the machines live. I think that's great.
Okay, so we have a question. John Galt was Dagny's terminus. Is Rhett the same for Scarlet?
Oh, okay. That's good for you. You're the expert.
Yeah, I guess I would probably say no. That John Galt was kind of the sort of logical conclusion of where she was going and what she was learning about, that at the end of the day, she wanted to have a man of the highest, moral virtue and of superior intelligence, a man without compromises, without any unearned guilt. And so that was sort of where the arc of the novel was pushing her towards. Yeah, Scarlet, not so much so. I mean, when I tend to think about the Gone with the Wind, I perhaps, because there was so much, it really isn't necessarily primarily a love story. I think it is also the story of an epic, a time, a war. So there was a lot going on. So what are you reading now, Agnieszka? Tell us a little bit about that.
Funny you would ask. I'm reading every morning. I have a routine or a ritual, should I say, and I read just a few sentences from Meditations, Marcus Aurelius, which is very different than Atlas Shrugged, may I point out. So very different, not opposite, but different approach to life for sure.
What are the big differences that you see?
Uh, so so objectivism is about molding the world to your
Vision.
to your vision, as opposed to Marcus Aurelius and Stoics just accepting the world the way it is. And surprisingly, it's not so different, because so for him, you look at the world like being governed by the logos, everything makes sense. So what I found for myself very charming and helpful in that philosophy is that if something happens, uh, you look at this as a push towards something that's important. So he famously said, obstacle is the way. And I would compare it to Ayn Rand. It's not about who's gonna let me, it's who's gonna stop me. So it's kind of similar, but it's a bit more calmer philosophy. I think with Ayn Rand, sometimes I beat up myself a little bit too much if I am not productive enough. Uh, you know, just she's so focused on work, be productive, be productive. Sometimes it's hard to put up with if you take it very seriously.
Yeah, well, I think that I can relate to that. I mean, there is a relentlessness, about her, and a huge emphasis on work, productivity, achievement, and value. And so
Yeah,
I was
and
really,
it's wonderful, because again, like for me, there's no doubt. I'm not just saying that to be, to like please you or as a society, but I really 100%, if it wasn't that I read that book, I would not have accomplished in my career what I have. Because for her, again, for someone to show you that, again, give this green light to really pursue 100% what you need, it was just wonderful. And of course, during my career, I realized it's more about endurance as opposed to intensity. So early on, you work a little different, you're very intense, long days. Right now, I work with shorter days, but I don't stop. So what I found out is, like, things that happened in my life, in my professional life, um, they just happen. But you have to have endurance and just work hard, focus on the process, and it's just amazing how magic just happens.
yeah, well, I can attest, having been to Agnieszka's studio, one of her studios in San Francisco, how dedicated she is, how hardworking she is. And it is a process, whether you are raising a family, or you're trying to keep your business afloat, or you're starting some crazy new endeavor, you're writing a book, you can just lose sight of the fact that there will be a result, and that it will come for you, and that I've seen it with you, Agnieszka, in your work. And it's much more entrepreneurial what you do, because it's not like you can just bring some stuff to market. I mean, you really have to.
No.
Uh, and also that I think people want to have a personal connection with the artist, so that particularly when there are collectors of a really significant level, that maybe you will be there, I don't know, or maybe you feel that you already are, that you have a relationship with people that
I
invest
do,
in
and
your work.
again, but it's authentic. So we're living in in a time when authenticity is rare, and I really went into, when I first started doing what I was doing, I never thought I was going to make any money out of it, and it was not my purpose at all. And again, it's kind of ironic. Ayn Rand, like service, she didn't like that word, but for me, it was really service to America, which is my highest value. So for me to, I really, my work is really about paying tribute to entrepreneurs. I mean, technology is big for me. So technology is kind of the new industry of America. And I do think that people in that industry, they really deserve moral credit for how they're pushing the world to a better place. So it comes from an authentic place. So it's not hard for me to really do it. I'm just, the work itself is a reward.
So Agnieszka, I've known you for about 4.5 years. I think you came to the first reception that I had, actually, it was in this house here in San Francisco. It was the first time you and I met when I took over the Atlas Society. And yeah, we've been through our ups and our downs. Agnieszka was, not she and I, we're always up. But she was one of the judges on our very early art contest, which was a flop, but we tried it and we learned. And, you know, I've seen, though, it seems to me, tell me, maybe I'm not perceiving it correctly, but it seems that, you know, 4 years ago, we would have conversations in private that you felt that you could let down your guard more in terms of being as unabashedly patriotic and you know, a defender of the free market, that it seems like you've felt a little bit more guarded. Is that just a perception, or has there been any experiences over the past couple of years that have, you know, maybe you've reached a level of success where you feel more comfortable just saying, hey, this is who I am. I don't need to worry about what, you know, people are going to judge me for my views, or
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm still cautious because let's I'm very cautious about talking about politics in general. I don't think politics really defines me. I have a very narrow view. I know I'm very biased because of my childhood. I think if I ever talk about politics, when I disclose that allows people to be a little bit more open-minded, because this is through my experience. You know, that said, it's I'm still very cautious, really, because people just want to hear what they want to hear, and they make assumptions and jump to assumptions, just like Ayn Rand. Again, like, you know, a lot of people have an opinion, strong opinion about this book, and they didn't know that Ayn Rand was like the first one to speak against draft, very hardly against draft. She was a feminist. She was an amazing feminist, like so strong, right? She was the breadwinner in her family. So there's a lot of stuff about her that just being really misjudged. And I don't want to, and I am maybe a little bit more outspoken because I think my work, I have a big body of work itself that it speaks for itself. So I'm in a stronger position, perhaps. I don't know.
yeah, well, again, like I said, it could be just my, you know, perception that it seemed to me that you've been, and we're, you know, getting older, we're feeling more comfortable saying, you know, what we think, regardless of whether there's a context of public opinion or whatever.
Especially Utah. Oh, she's very strong. She's all for free market, that little one.
So tell us the story of Utah. We've got a couple of more minutes here, and we can still take another question or two if somebody wants to throw one out there. But tell us about Utah.
Utah has her own body of work and her own collectors, and we are working towards 2 women show, her and I, and she's much more experimental in her work, and I kind of envy her youth, although she's done a lot of work. And of course, she's a joke of sorts, but again, you know, going back to Ayn Rand, she's a part of, you know, the seriousness. It's sometimes it's just like you said in the beginning, it's like sometimes it's okay to be a little silly. So just a, you know, silly way of, also for me, it was a big, for social media, creating content that was more light and just easy to make. And I kind of bonded with her. It's a little weird, but we have like a thing going. She's a good listener, that always helps. Doesn't talk back. I mean, yeah, we're good.
So how do you know what she thinks if she doesn't talk back?
She is like all the shadow personality of me. That's her. So I know she's she's out there.
And how long has she been with you?
She's been with me, oh my goodness, maybe 6 years. I've had her for a while now. Yeah. Yeah, she's great. A friend of mine is making a copy for her, another a cyborg one like her with actually, I think, mechanical heart. He just sent me a picture, so there's gonna be another one. Sister.
Has she ever run away from home, or have you ever had any sort of disciplinary problems?
I think at one time she had a boyfriend. I put an end to that. It was too early. But no, overall, she's a hard worker like I am. When I'm not working, she's working.
So Kate Jones wants to know, what are the holes on Yuta's chest? Is she a music box or a talking doll?
Yeah, she used to talk, but yeah, there was a string here, but it's, I don't get it. It's like some strange kind of language. I don't know. That's how she came. I actually, the reason I have was that I was doing a project back at school at the academy, and I wanted to paint a portrait, and I bought her a slave trade. I bought her at the garage sale, and I painted her, and then she's been with me ever since. We kind of bonded in a silly way.
We love her, and we're very excited to hear that she's even more Randian than you, if that's possible. And I'm sad. I'm happy for you, but sad for me that you are on the East Coast now, because Agnieszka, I brought the gala to the West Coast. Okay,
I know.
In part for you. So if you can't go, maybe Uta can come.
Well, if there wasn't for the quarantine is a problem, right? So unless the quarantine would be lifted, because for me to come back here, and again, you might argue if it's rational or not, but for me, especially as an immigrant, I really find being here, it's not out of fear, actually, it's out of respect. I find it as a privilege for me to be here. It's not my right to be here in New York. And, if I don't like their laws, I don't have to be here. So, so I'm really committed to kind of follow the law. And so, yeah, as long as there is quarantine, it'll be hard for me to leave, because then I have to do the quarantine again.
Well, we'll have you then, we'll have a virtual option. So we'll have you join us that way. And anyone who is watching who would like to join us in person for our socially distanced Atlas Society Gala on October 14th, coming up in Los Angeles at the Beverly Hills Hilton. We're going to have it in the outside courtyard with masks required. So we are honoring Peter Diamandis. Chip Wilson is coming down from Vancouver with a party of people. So we'd love for you.
Oh, Chip is coming? Oh, man.
Yeah.
No, really, oh, man.
Chip's coming. Yeah, it's going to be.
He's a good example of someone who has a very big business, very successful, and has been terrorized because of his political views. But I mean, such a good businessman and good guy.
Yeah, and was definitely not given a pass, but he's been not defeated and unbowed, and he allowed us to tell his story in My Name is Chip Wilson, which, by the way, also want to thank Chip, just gave us the funding to translate My Name is Chip Wilson into Portuguese, into Hindi, and into French. So the Portuguese should be up, if not by the end of the week, then early next week, and it'll be, the third language into which his story, and this has been helping the Atlas Society to exponentially grow around the world. So we will miss you, Agnieszka, but there's always tomorrow.
Yeah, well, the strangest things can happen, but yeah, but I'll be there in spirit, because it's always such a great group of people, really. Just wonderful.
Thank you for being a part of our community. Thank you to all of you who joined us on Zoom, who joined us on Facebook, who asked your great questions. Make sure to sign up for the Atlas Society newsletter so you always get notifications for these kinds of events. Thank you for donating and supporting us to make it possible. Agnieszka, how do we sign up for your newsletter? Because I love your newsletter.
Oh, ideally, I guess you follow my page on Facebook, and from there I always post, so you'll be able to do that. Yeah, just follow Agnieszka Pilat on Facebook.
Right, and definitely check her out on Instagram, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Agnieszka.
Thank you so much.
My dear. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye, Yuta.
Bye.